Am I the asshole for telling my kid's teacher to stop fishing for information that's none of her business? I'm raising an 8-year-old boy who's technically my nephew, though we are not biologically related. It's a complicated story. He's been with me since he was 5 and calls me Uncle Mike. His teacher, Miss L, has been complaining about his behavior. I asked her for examples and then asked her if other boys in her class displayed the same behavior because it sounds like typical 3rd grade boy behavior. We really weren't making any progress until she asked me about Aiden's home life. I thought she was going to ask about his sleeping habits. She said, meant about his parents. I asked her if this whole thing was an excuse to dig for personal information, and if it was, then she's a sorry excuse for a teacher and a human being. She was taken aback by my comment and said she didn't know if there was something she should know about. I told her if she has something to say, then say it. Do not waste my time by asking to meet me under false pretenses just so you can fish out why I'm raising my nephew. It's none of her business. She said she'd try again when I was not so emotional, and I said try again when you're not so nosy. Today she apologized for everything and said there was no excuse for knowing things that she didn't need to know. She said she wanted to start over. I think she expected me to apologize, and I didn't. I told her I don't hold grudges and apology accepted. My brother and his partner adopted Aiden at birth. Both of them are away for a very long time. I wasn't going to let Aiden go into foster care, so I took him in, and he's doing quite well.
Am I the asshole for mentioning my best friend's former crush on me in a speech at his wedding? Okay, I'm currently in a predicament, and frankly, I could use some opinions. For backstory, I, female 27, met one of my best friends, Christian, male 26, back in 2010 during our freshman year of high school. We became friends and remained close over the years since, making a lot of great memories and sharing mutual close friends. From 2013 to 2016, Christian had pretty serious, unrequited feelings for me. However, he eventually got over me, and I had never even let his feelings harm our friendship. If anything, our friendship honestly got closer after he got over me. In early 2018, Christian met Victoria, female 29, at a bar, and they hit it off. They started dating after 2 weeks, got engaged in late 2021, and the wedding happened yesterday night. It was honestly a great time as I watched with my parents and mutual friends as this kid I've known for 12 years was getting married to the love of his life. Plus, Victoria and I honestly had a pretty decent relationship. And according to Christian, she didn't really seem to care about his past feelings as time went on. Anyways, as the night kept going with a lot of music and dancing, I got up to eventually give a speech for Christian. I talked about how we first met, how much our lives changed since then, and just how great of a person Christian was. The attendees were clearly touched, and Christian and Victoria both looked happy. As I talked more about our history, I jokingly mentioned how Christian had the hots for me, but that didn't matter because he found his soulmate and that our friendship was stronger than some unrequited feelings. Most of the crowd laughed, and I could even see Christian smiling for a second before seeing Victoria's confused face. After the speech was over, I went over to the bar with a few friends. Christian came up and hugged me, thanking me for the speech. However, at our hotel, one of my other best friends, Devin, female 27, told me she had heard gossip from the bridesmaids that Victoria was really upset for me for bringing up Christian's previous feelings for me at their wedding. Apparently, Victoria genuinely had no issue with Christian's feelings, but felt it was inappropriate to mention them at the wedding. I sincerely intended no harm with my actions. Maybe I didn't read the room? Everyone I've told is honestly split on whether I'm the bad guy or not, so it's definitely been polarizing. Christian hasn't mentioned any of this to me, and I'm not sure I should ask him. So, am I the asshole?
This secret comes from listener Georgia. My mum passed away last year, and my secret, the thing I can't tell anyone, is that I feel relieved that she's gone. Let me explain. I always had a complicated relationship with my mum. Growing up, she had a lot of expectations of what my life should look like and what our relationship should look like. She was a single mum and I was her only daughter, and she wanted us to be super close. And for a long time, I wanted that too. But then, when I was at uni, I fell in love with someone, and that person was another girl. Let's call her Holly. I was raised Catholic, and when I told my mum about Holly, she was concerned about the fact that I was in a same-sex relationship. She said, "That's not you. That's not who I want you to be. That's not the expectation I had for you." And I agreed with her. I was like, "You're right. I'm not gay, Mum." So I broke up with Holly. But I realized that this wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to be happy. Within a couple of weeks, Holly and I ended up getting back together. We kept our relationship a secret for a year before finally telling my family. My mum reluctantly accepted it, but it was hard. I think a lot of my family also saw it as a phase. That was kind of the first experience of me going against my mum's expectations. But it was like mum saw every step in my relationship with Holly as a step away from her. For example, when I decided to move out, mum was absolutely devastated. Over the next few years, I was just constantly trying not to disappoint her. There was also a lot of pressure to do everything with her. She expected me to call every day. She expected me to always live in the same area as her. She would get really upset if I couldn't make it to family dinner or stay over after a big family event. So much so that she would call me multiple times to discuss why I wasn't going and telling me that as her daughter, I had to be there. If I was going on a trip, I would be really nervous to tell mum because she would say she wanted to come, or she'd demand I spend the whole day before I leave with her. While I was actually on holiday, she would message me asking when I was going to come over once I was home. And then finally, when I would get home and go and visit, I wouldn't be able to leave just after a couple of hours. She'd tell me I couldn't leave, that I must stay for dinner, that actually I must sleep there too. I honestly felt like I was always letting her down, that I was never able to be who she needed. I realized maybe a year before she passed away that nothing I was ever going to do was going to make her happy. I was never going to be enough. Then she got sick. When we were in the hospital and she was passing away, I just felt relief. It was the first time I could make decisions and not worry about how she would receive them. I didn't have to disappoint her anymore. I didn't have to let her down. I miss her, of course. I absolutely miss her. It was so sad to lose her. Her life was valuable and she was a great mum at times. And sometimes I think, oh, it would be nice if she was here to see this moment or that moment. But if she could actually come back, I don't think I would want her back. It's hard to grieve someone and then also be relieved that they're gone. I don't know if I believe in heaven, but sometimes I feel like I shouldn't think these things because I don't want her to know that I feel relieved that she's gone. It's a horrible thing to think. I don't think many people who've lost parents feel the way I do.
Am I the asshole for making my daughter return a Halloween costume? My daughter works an after-school job 5 days a week. Her high school had a costume contest for Halloween. My daughter and her friends planned a group costume to enter. She went with her friends after school to buy costumes. I picked her and her friends up from the store and they showed me their costumes. My daughter spent $80 on hers. I was pissed. That's a lot of money to spend on something you're going to wear for a few hours. Very irresponsible use of money. I dropped her friends off and took her back to the store to return the costume and accessories. Her friends found someone else to take her place in the group and they won the contest and a $100 Visa gift card to split. My daughter came home from school on Halloween upset. She claimed she had to sit and watch while her friends had fun and she missed out on everything. Now a month later, she is still moody and mostly ignoring me. I was just trying to teach my daughter how to be responsible with money since she could have gotten a cheap costume, especially since she would have only worn it for a few hours. Am I the asshole for letting my fiance spend my son's birthday with him instead of my ex? I have a daughter, 8, and a son, 10, with my ex-wife. I recently got engaged to my fiance. 2 days ago was my son's birthday. The kids were staying with me, but unfortunately I had to go to another city for work and couldn't spend the day with him. This also happened for my daughter's 6th birthday, in which I let them go to their mom's home because I didn't want her to be alone for her birthday. Well, this year my fiance suggested spending the day with the kids, and I thought it would be a good idea. They like her and it's a good chance to bond with her even more, so why not? From what I've heard, the kids enjoyed it. However, my ex is really angry. She called me an a-hole because she thinks the kids should have spent the day with her, not my fiance. She blew up at me and said a lot of rude things about me and my fiance. I think she's being unreasonable because it was the kids' time with me, so I get to decide what to do, not her. Am I the for not answering when my husband called to speak to our kids before bed? I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, so keeping them on good sleep schedule is pretty important. Whenever my husband is away, he'll FaceTime with the kids for a little while. We agreed before he left that he would call at 6:30 p.m. my time, as their bedtime is around 8 p.m. He called late from the start, but he was already apologetic and said his meeting overran, so I let it go at first. After the fourth time, I told him I wouldn't answer if he called later than 7:30 p.m., as it was ruining their sleep schedule and he was calling later and later every day. I never answered when he called to speak to the kids for 3 days because he called after 7:30 p.m., and now he's angry at me even though I suggested he call earlier if that worked better for him, as it didn't.